The day is finally here. I'm super excited. We finally have full self-driving beta once again. As always, I'm Brian. This is All Your Tech. If you'll recall, about 6 months back, I had full self-driving beta. I put up a few videos testing it. We're going to run that exact same route, but the difference is it's been about 6 months. This is the refresh 2022 Model X Plaid, and we're running 10.69.2.2 of the software. So let's jump right in. You'll notice that on the right hand side I've got my 360 camera footage mounted to the top of the car, and then of course we've also got our in-car camera as well. Now, this first obstacle up here on the right is this trailer that was open, the door was open, and the car sort of slows down around it. We'll get another view of that here in a moment. I'm going to try and skip as many of the boring bits as possible, so we might jump around. This is the first left-hand turn, and it never was successful at this before with any of the betas, and you see that it did it no problem. This is great. Now, one of the pieces of information you'll see pop up on the self-driving display directly in front of the driver is you'll actually see a creep limit barrier appear there, and it's this blue horizontal line. So when we pull up to a stop, you'll notice that each time. Now, you can also, I don't know if you can make it out on the screen, but brake lights actually show up on vehicles now. So when that truck was just turning left, the brake lights actually showed up on the display, so you can see that happening in near real time, which is pretty cool. Now, for this next section here, there are some kids here on the right side of the road. I'm getting ready to make a right-hand corner, and so we'll see how the car performs. There's a bicyclist as well, and the car is very cautious. It approaches and it takes the turn just fine. Now, immediately this car pulls out in front of us and the car stops, not a problem as well. That often happens around this area. There's a lot of cars backing up because of the way that they're parked sort of diagonally here on the side. So it's nice to see that even coming out of a right-hand turn, the car was able to appropriately handle that situation with no problem. So that was our first destination. Everything went pretty flawlessly there overall, I would say. So let's jump back in and we'll do another destination. And you can see these residential streets, they're really tightly packed. You've got construction barriers, you've got cars passing by, and you'll notice that when a car comes by, just like that one did, my car will actually veer off to one of the sides to allow them to pass. It'll sort of dart in between cars, which is a really cool and natural thing for you to see. Now, here we have another left-hand corner, and you can see that we're going to pan both directions and sort of look at the traffic in the 360 cam. And you can see this car getting ready to pass, and that creep barrier, yep, we just went through it, and now it's making the turn. So again, exactly what you would hope for and what you would expect to see from this. Now, right here, coming up on the right-hand side, we've got a cyclist, and you'll notice it's really subtle, but the car actually moves over to the left to give them a little bit more space and really hugs that yellow line, which is a nice natural behavior that you'd want to see. Up here, we've got another right-hand turn coming up. I'm much happier with how full self-driving beta is handling these now. You swing out a little bit, which is a better way to take this. You don't get so close to the curb, which used to drive me crazy on previous builds. Coming up to this stop was pretty incredible. So the car started to go since it was a four-way stop and we had the right of way, and then it hesitated for a second because that other car came in so quick to the stop sign that it wasn't sure if it was actually going to stop in time. And so the car hesitated, it did exactly the right thing, and that's a very cool little extra bit of safety, I think, that you want to see from a car as it starts to get better at this sort of driving around the city. I've seen a lot of cars run that stop sign before, so it was definitely being overly cautious in a good way. So the other thing we'll notice when we come up to these turns, these right-hand corners to be specific, is that the car, again, is much more confident. It used to sit here and, especially at this stop sign, it would creep for a good 10-15 seconds until I would get upset with it and just press the accelerator. You'll notice even though there was another car directly after the turn, the car was able to navigate around it, get off to the right-hand side, and go through that pretty much flawlessly. We're coming up to another intersection, and this time the car is going to take a right instead of a left. We went left here this last time. So this should be, pretty uneventful. You can see in the 360 cam that it's clear. And we're off into the intersection. The thing to note about a lot of these side streets, especially in these residential neighborhoods, is that there are often cars parked on the left and right hand sides of the road. And so your view is almost always obstructed. So being able to navigate around these neighborhoods is a pretty big deal for self-driving to actually be realized. Now here we have a guy that just got out of his truck. It's hard to see in the animation, but you can actually see the door open and close in the animation, and then the car slows down. Again, we're coming in with that same trailer we had at the beginning of the video. Car slows down and swerves to the left, just in case there's a person that's going to get in or out of the vehicle. This is the most nerve-wracking intersection for me. It's coming up on this left. It's really hard to see out of both sides of the vehicle. So we'll pull it up on the 360 cam, and you can see the car starts to go a little bit, and we're hesitating because another car came up. We're still behind that creep line, and then the car decides to go. I can't really complain about how that handled it. Another interesting thing you'll find in neighborhoods is a lot of construction equipment. So there was a big moving trailer. You're gonna see that up here in a minute up on the left-hand side. It's actually completely occluded because there's not only a construction dumpster, but then there's a fence, a tree. There's a lot of obstacles here that the car has to really stop and think about before it makes this left-hand corner. So it's gonna creep out. And you can see that even for the human, the 360 cam's mounted on the front top of the car, right about where the driver is. And so even for a driver, it would have been difficult to see through there, but the car handled it no problem. Overall, I'm really impressed with the progress that we're seeing here. If you reflect back on some of my earlier videos with all of the failed left-hand corners, all of the right-hand corners that just hug the curb too much or start to hesitate as they come into the corner, you don't see any of that in these newer builds, and that really shows you the progress that Tesla and the AI team have made in building this out. And you can see that we're inching closer toward that sort of future that we all hope for with autonomous vehicles. Now, of course, we're not there yet, but man, this is such a giant leap forward compared to where we were just 6 months ago. I'm really looking forward to seeing the progress as this matures even further and new builds come out. But man, this is really impressive. And we saw a lot of situations here that you're going to run into on normal city streets and everyday driving. Cyclists, pedestrians, car doors opening, cars coming into your lane and driving straight towards you. So really impressive stuff. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.